Hi friends, host Eric here, host Talking with Famous People, and I'm making a video on an article that I wrote. Let's see. Looks like it was December 2014. And in this article, I make the best arguments against the libertarian worldview. Okay, so I'm going to read this first subpoint. This is the case that's made by a writer named Cry Trassus, who's an anagram of Eric Strauss. It's an anagram of my name. He's got a little biography here. He wrote a book called Libertarians Are Dicks Who Think Badly by Simon Schuster, who does volunteer work in Ecuador. He loves fresh organic produce. He advocates in favor of gender pay equality, laws guaranteeing gender pay equality. He likes Obamacare. He's pro-choice and vegetarian. He does consume dairy, but only from no-hormone grass-fed cows. And he does feel guilty about it. He used to smoke cigarettes, but he quit when he got serious about yoga. He still smokes marijuana occasionally, with colleagues who, like him, are sophisticated enough not to have internalized the propaganda of the military-industrial complex / school-to-prison pipeline. He's the author of several books, including the title excerpted here, Libertarians Are Dicks Who Think Badly, published by Chapman Schuster, scheduled for pre-order, release beginning March 2015. First point, libertarianism is reductive. Bum, 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 bum. Competition fetish ignores reality. The liberty-focused worldview relies on the merit-rewarding force of competition for much of its justification. And indeed, competition is fantastic in many systems, but not so much for others. Let's look at some examples and explanation. Competitive pressure makes you better only if you're competing against someone who's doing the same thing. Playing basketball against LeBron James makes me better at basketball, but it doesn't make me better at fishing. The free market uses one unit to reward merit, which is money. So if you are the world's greatest ping pong player and LeBron's the greatest basketball player, the free market utterly fails to do what it's supposed to do. Why? Well, if the free market really rewarded merit, the ping pong player would earn the same as the basketball player and more than any other in his field. After all, they have both displayed the same level of merit in their respective fields. But we can look at merit in two ways, person and work. The merit of the person compares the person's ability to others in her field, like I just did, and the merit of the work compares the usefulness of a job to the usefulness of other jobs. Either way, the free market doesn't do what libertarianism says it does. If it rewarded commensurate with task usefulness, then pro athletes wouldn't make so much money. If it rewarded commensurate with individual ability, then the best person in each field would earn the same as the best person in every field. Can you figure out what's wrong with this argument? I will come back to it and explain it. You can think about it if you'd like. It is wrong. It's a pretty effective argument, but it's incorrect. So point B, people aren't rational. Much of libertarian thinking derives from the flawed assumption that people behave rationally. If one wishes to push the idea that individuals should be given carte blanche to make bad choices, then one must push that those individuals bear all responsibility for those bad choices. But anyone who parents a teenager knows that mood, hormones, lack of sleep, and countless other random factors can turn your wise beyond her years daughter into a nincompoop and back again several times in 10 minutes. And anyone who knows me knows that at least some 43-year-olds still haven't outgrown those spells of impulsive disorder themselves. I guess I should italicize still. Anyway, society has an interest in making it more difficult to ruin your life, not less. If people were rational, we wouldn't need seatbelt laws, and undeniably we do, because the habitual wearing of seatbelts increased dramatically with the passage of such laws, saving many lives. I personally got into a car crash not long after California passed its seatbelt law. If I hadn't had my belt on, I'd have been seriously hurt or killed. And the only reason I had the belt on was the law. Otherwise, my naturally blithe dismissal of risk would assuredly have defeated any speck of prudence that might have surfaced in my teenage brain. Okay, so in other words, people aren't rational enough to make the right choice. That's what that says. Okay? See what you think about that argument and if you find problems with it. Alright. So the fact is, people are subject to their moods and stuff. There's lots of considerations as to what makes the choice, and society has an interest in making people make it more difficult to bring your life on the less. Yada yada yada. Okay. See what you think about that, and what kind of counter arguments you have to it, or how you'd address it if you were arguing against it. So point C: support enables better competition. When society moves to support disadvantaged individuals, it empowers the very force that libertarians so worship. A fair competition, the only kind that actually produces the meritocracy that libertarians clamor for, requires a level playing field. I know. Lib-cheese hate that expression. The fact is, a system that immediately gets unfair and then stays unfair in that fashion across multiple generations can't possibly be fair. If my great-great-grandfather was a slave, it's likely that I'm still feeling the financial repercussions of that to this day. How can that be so? Simple. It's an implicit flaw in the system. People aren't born fully mature on a blank slate. By the time they're old enough to understand free will, let alone exercise it, the course of their life has already been determined by either their situational advantage or disadvantage, and by decisions made in the complete blindness of childhood by individuals who didn't even know they were making a decision. Let's look at an example. Bob's poor, Steve's rich. Bob goes to urban public school, located in blighted downtown, where good teachers don't want to work and where low property values mean limited resources for materials and curriculum and such. Bob's really smart and hardworking, though, and he's the valedictorian when he graduates. Bob's school is much less rigorous than suburban counterparts, but Bob squeezed every last bit of education he could out of the place. He was also the drum major in the marching band. Steve's also really smart, but naturally lazy and spoiled and contrarian. He goes to public school, too, but in a suburb with bike lanes and boutiques. His school is full of high achievers, and Steve is definitely no Bob. He does okay with the grades, even though he never studies, but he kind of hates everyone because they all make him do stupid shit all the time. Then his parents put him in debate and hire him a good coach and fly him all over the country to compete. So now he's fine. He's being given something worth doing, something where he can actually be challenged and rewarded for success in that real zero-sum way that no other education offers. He excels and discovers that he actually loves everyone, and it was just stupid school that he hated. What does this tell us? Bob started out with an inherent advantage. He was smart and naturally hardworking, but by the end of high school, it had turned around. Steve started out with a situational advantage. He was smart and lazy, but his parents had the resources to engineer a solution. They both go to college and then apply for the same job. Naturally, Steve gets the position. He's vastly more intelligent and knowledgeable than Bob, and much more capable of generating impressive, meaningful, and insightful work. Of course he is. He debated policy debate, while poor Bob was marching around with a stick and a whistle and a furry hat. The libertarians will tell you that I'm rich and smart and successful, if so, that it's because I'm so deserving, and if I'm poor and dumb and a failure, it's because I'm so deserving. But that's bullshit. Individuals only succeed when communities work together and create a framework in which they are empowered and encouraged to succeed. That is why the greatest moral action is altruism, not greed. Okay, so, as with the previous arguments, these are positioned as essay-style arguments. I do not articulate a clear roadmap that allows you to more easily flow it and respond to the thing. But there are a finite and distinct set of warrants within each of these paragraphs of argumentation. In other words, there are a specific number of distinct points being made, and each distinct point has, as part of that point, a claimed impact and a reason why the impact that's claimed is in fact caused or links to the thing that it's saying it's links to. For example, this is saying the libertarians are wrong because individuals only succeed when communities work together and create a framework in which they are empowered and encouraged to succeed. So the claim there is the impact that you should conclude the libertarians are wrong. And the warrant as to why, it's because this other statement is presented as both true and exclusive of libertarianism. Individuals only succeed when communities work together and create. Okay. Then there's the next sentence is a separate warrant. It says, the greatest moral action is altruism, not greed, and we should accept that statement as true and use that to draw conclusions. To draw the conclusion that libertarians are wrong. So, what they're wrong about, and according to this paragraph, is the correlation between success and deservingness. There are different kinds of rights, not just one. Subpoint D. The most intuitive rights are obligations, the right to food and water and shelter. They prohibit nothing, they obligate. And the social contract tells us the government bears the duty to meet that obligation as a condition of its monopoly on force. By insisting on negative rights, libertarians create a world in which Congress must allow you to buy 50 machine guns but can't feed hungry infants. It makes no sense. If the libertarian perspective on rights is correct, a mother who fails to feed a newborn has done nothing wrong. Again, there's a kind of a mix of different warrants here, and you got to parse it out and figure out which one is which to correctly be able to articulate what's wrong with this guy's arguments. A worldview that holds that, so postscripts and notes, a worldview which holds the government should limit itself to protecting individual rights, building and maintaining infrastructure, providing for the resolution of contract disputes, ensuring for the integrity of the free market, and defense against external threats, is somebody that's a libertarian, according to this definition. Additionally, the libertarian prioritizes free market solutions as categorically better than public solutions, prefers minimal regulation, low taxes, and no laws that violate individual sovereignty, such as seatbelt and helmet laws, laws prohibiting possession of things, or laws mandating the purchase of things. Greetings, friends. I, Professor Cry Trassis, am a professor of community studies at a UC school. One thing that I find myself needing to go over with my students each semester is so-called libertarianism. I use the tag so-called because really libertarians are about everything but basic rights. And if in each class it seems one of these windbag Whitey Williams, they're almost all white men, starts in with this sovereign this and natural rights that, how does it start? Taxes, usually. I'll be discussing some thoroughly effective government program, and the peanut gallery sounds off about taxes and the government having stolen the money it's used to pay for the program. So, to save myself some time next semester, I decided to write a book and assign it to my students. My book is called Libertarians Are Dicks Who Think Badly. Alright, so this character who's presented these arguments is a representation of the best a certain political perspective has to offer in terms of argumentation. I challenge every viewer here who sees this thing to explain what's wrong with those arguments. Why is Crytrassus wrong? He's wrong about all those things. Everything he says is wrong. Why? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese.